Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of the 1988 horror film, The Serpent and the Rainbow. I only have it in this 4-pack, which has The Funhouse and Phantasm 2, and I'm looking forward to the Scream Factory Blu-ray, which is supposed to be, from what I've heard, some rumors, don't know if it's confirmed yet, it's supposed to be out in January of next year, so I'm really looking forward to that, but I'm still glad I have it, at, have a copy of it at least on DVD, because before I had it on VHS. The first time I saw it was on VHS, and I really loved it then. And then I just watched it again recently for the second time, and it held up really well, and I loved it just as much as I really enjoyed it the first time around. In fact, Surfing the Rainbow also stands as one of the first reviews I ever did for this channel. I did a podcast style review for the film, and it was way back. It was what 2000. It was a long time ago for considering YouTube, my YouTube channel standards. It was a long time ago. But yeah, but I thought it was a perfect time because I'm doing the Wes Craven filmography to do another review of the film and see if it holds up. And it did. It definitely did. This might be. I still need to watch Shocker again, and that film's up next on the agenda, so to speak. That's next up in terms of the reviews. And I'm looking forward to that. Excuse me, but I really like this film. It might be my favorite Wes Craven movie. I mean, I don't know what's going to overtake it. I haven't seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare again, so that might like that a little bit more. I really like A Nightmare on Elm Street. I like People Under the Stairs, and I do like Shocker. But I just really love Surfing the Rainbow. I love the fact that it's, in all honesty, probably the most realistic zombie movie ever made. I love the fact that they shoot most of the film on location in Haiti. I really love the concept and the story, written by Richard Maxwell and Adam Rodman, who ended up taking the book Surfing the Rainbow, the Surfing the Rainbow, of course. I keep forgetting to say the Surfing the Rainbow by Wade Davis, and they changed things up. They changed the characters. They add an antagonist in the film, and Zakes Mokae, who does an amazing job as this evil witch doctor, Darjan Petrod, who also represents the strife and the turmoil and the political power in Haiti at the time. So he's a double-edged sword. He's double. He represents two things. He doesn't just represent this evil witch doctor. He also represents the regime that was in Haiti at the time. So when the regime falls, then he loses his power, which you actually see in the film, and then he's finally vulnerable. Because when the regime was strong, he was almost unstoppable, and people were scared of him and afraid of him. But once the regime falls, no one's afraid of him anymore, and no one's afraid of the regime either. So it was nice to see a script like that was a little bit a horror film, but it was actually a little bit deeper than that. I also like the fact that for the most part it takes itself really seriously and is more of a adventure thriller for the first half of the movie. I mean, there's the hallucination scenes, the dream sequences, which are horrifying, some of the most unnerving and disturbing dream sequences I've seen in a film. But for the most part, there's a lot of we're taking this serious. It's an expedition to Haiti where you have Bill Pullman's character, Dennis Allen, is going to Haiti and trying to find the powder that creates zombies, which that in itself is interesting. So that just that concept alone is enough to make the film really work really well for me and keep me intrigued. It's got really good pacing. And originally it was 3 hours long. The first cut after everything was said and done was 3 hours, and even Wes was like, "That's too long. It's too talky. We had to trim it down." I'm glad they did. And it's also a crowd pleaser. So that's another thing. It's a good adventure thriller. It's also a really entertaining movie. It's also a great crowd pleaser in the end when Bill Pullman starts beating the crap out of Zakes Mokae and turns the tables on him, and it's some real fun stuff. And it's also scary. It's also a good horror film. It's arguably has some of the most terrifying images out of any film that Wes has directed. So it was also the first time where we really saw Wes be able to handle a film that was more with subject material that was more serious, more realistic. And I think he knocked it out of the park. I really wish he was able to do more films like this, like Serpent the Rainbow. And it's really too bad. I hope, against all hope, that Scream Factory was able to get Wes to talk about Serpent the Rainbow and do a commentary, like one last thing for Wes to do before he passed away. But it's more and more looking like that's not the case. But until it's officially confirmed and what the features are for Serpent the Rainbow, we'll see. But he didn't really do it for Shocker, so that's what makes me feel that didn't really do it for Surfing the Rainbow either, which is really too bad because this is a film that even Wes admits in articles and interviews that changed his life because he was going through a really rough time before when he was beginning to start shooting this film. He just went through a divorce. He had some fallout with New Line, a lot of problems. And so, and then Deadly Friend, and then he had to deal with that, and the studio's meddling and changing his film. And so he went to Haiti, and he had a life-changing experience. He said it really put things in perspective for him, and that's a really, really good thing. The film, it's directed by Wes Craven. It's written by Richard Maxwell, Adam Rodman. It stars Bill Pullman, who plays Dr. Dennis Allen. He does a great job. I thought Bill Pullman was a great lead in this, and to be honest, I wish Bill Pullman had more films where he would play the lead role, because that's a rare occurrence, really, for Bill. I mean, he was in Spaceballs, but he wasn't really the lead, but he was a member of an ensemble cast. Same thing goes for Casper. So, I've always liked Bill Pullman as an actor, and I think this is his quintessential film for me. It's definitely my favorite Bill Pullman movie. It also stars Michael Gough, who you might remember as Alfred from the Batman films. The Tim Burton films and the Joel Schumacher movies. You have Paul Guilfoyle, who plays a character named Andrew Cassidy, who you might recognize him in a few. He's been in like a bunch of stuff. He was also in Howard the Duck. He was the cop who's like, I want that duck. So it was kind of funny to see Paul Guilfoyle in that, and then he was in this movie playing a more serious character about 2 years later. It also stars Dey Young as Deborah Cassidy, his wife. You have Cathy Tyson, who plays Marielle Duchamp, who is the love interest of the film. I really like her performance. She's very exotic beauty. Her performance is really good as well, and her and Bill Pullman make a great couple. It's rare that you see a film where you have this type of couple, really. So I really like the fact that they did that with this movie. You have Zakes Mokae, who plays Sergeant Petrod, who's this evil witch doctor, who's just a phenomenal performance. He's just a very creepy, unsettling character. And Zakes Mokae just knocked it out of the park. He was definitely a guy that made my skin crawl. He really was. I definitely was afraid of the guy, especially the fact that he could haunt you in your dreams. I mean, you have that quote from the film where he's talking to Alan, and he's all like, but he says, by the way, Dr. Allen, what did you dream about this afternoon? A woman in your arms? The sea at your doorstep? No! You dreamt of me and of the grave, because I was there. And I could be there every time you close your eyes. The pain I caused you in the room upstairs is nothing to the pain I can cause you in your own mind. Remember that, Dr. Allen. So, he's a very charismatic villain, but at the same time, he was definitely intimidating. You also had Paul Winfield, who plays Lucian, who is more of the good witch doctor. You also had a few other actors and actresses who were also in the film. Brent Jennings, who plays Louis Mozart, who is one of the guys who Bill Pullman was trying to get a hold of in order to purchase the powder from him. And they develop a friendship, and I like the guy. It was really too bad, when he gets decapitated at the end. It was like, oh, that sucks. I like Mozart. Then you have Conrad Roberts, who plays Christophe Durand, who I think did a great job. He plays this man who is turned into a zombie, and he does a great job playing this role. I thought it was very authentic. Very authentic the way that he portrayed this character who had no soul. And then you also had Alita Mitchell who played his sister, Celestine. And then the dancers seen in the film and the dancing sequences, they were all natives of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And they were actually performing an actual possession dance on camera. So that possession dance was real. And the film is based on Wade Davis's nonfiction book of the same name. Davis had agreed to sell the rights to the book on the condition that Peter Weir would direct and Mel Gibson would star in the film. So yeah, he agreed to sell the rights and on the condition that Peter Weir and Mel Gibson would be in the movie. But however, neither Weir or Gibson would be involved in the project. Wes Craven eventually signed on as the film's director. And I'm glad he did, because I like Peter Weir and I like Mel Gibson, but I'm glad it was Wes's film. It was Wes's chance to show everyone that he can make a film that's not just jump scares, it's not just a bunch of dream sequences, it's not just blood and guts, because this really isn't even really that gory of a film. You have the blood coffin scene, which is always freaks me out. Just the concept of being in a coffin and being buried alive is bad enough, but then it fills full of blood and drowns you in blood. That's that's pretty damn intense. But anyway, I'm glad that Wes was the one that was chosen and had the ability to do this film, and I'm glad Bill Pullman was the one instead of Mel Gibson, because enabled to show the world that Bill Pullman could carry a film and be a good lead actor as well. The Serpent and the Rainbow was filmed in Boston, Massachusetts, Santo Domingo, and in the Dominican Republic, and in Haiti. During production in Haiti, the local government informed the cast and crew that they could not guarantee their safety for the remainder of the film's shoot because of the political strife and civil turmoil that was occurring during that time. And as a result, production was relocated to the Dominican Republic for the remainder of the shoot. In an interview, Wes Craven stated that unlike his previous films that had problems with the MPAA, the first cut of the film got an R rating without any problems. So that's good. Glad he didn't have to deal with any of that crap. The film's also narrated by Bill Pullman, so Bill Pullman also does the narration as well. So he does double duty, so to speak. He does the acting and he also narrates, and he does a great job doing both. You also have music by Brad Fiedel, who is an excellent score. I love this score. I think it's a very underrated score, very overlooked. It's also a really rare score because only limited copies were made, which is really too bad because I really like the score, especially the main theme. It features cinematography by John Lindley, who does an amazing job, does a spectacular job with the cinematography. It's really gorgeous. It really is luscious. It's lavish. It's great. It's excellent. Really helps set the mood of the film and also shows how beautiful Haiti can be. It's also edited by Glenn Farr, who I also thought did a really good job editing the film. The film is very well edited. There's not a moment in the movie where you see it where it looks like there's a choppy edit. It's very seamless. And the film also, which is not as easy as it looks, because the original cut of the film was 3 hours. Wes Craven finished the film, it was 3 hours long, and he was like, that's too long, there's too much talking, we need to edit it down. And Glenn Farr did a great job editing the film down from a 3 hour long movie into just a quick-paced, fast, 98-minute long film, and while still maintaining the core of the movie. So yeah, I'm going to go into a little bit of trivia here, and then yeah, I'm just going to go into a little bit of trivia. If there's anything else that's here. I'm just IMDb's page for the trivia. It's not that much. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to look at this Fangoria article. This is a scan of a Fangoria article, Fangoria issue number 71. And this has some little bits of information about the production of Serpent and the Rainbow. Nothing super in-depth on the makeup effects or anything, but the special effects were done by this father and son FX company,
I forgot exactly what the name of the FX company was, but the father and son team of Lance and David Anderson, as well as Peter Chesney, handled the effects, the zombies and the dream sequences and all of that. And they did a great job with it. Um, really good. For a film that only cost about, I think, $8 million to make. It was only about a $7 million movie. So they did a great job with what they had to work with. You had, of course, the nightmare sequences with the blood in the coffin. You had the scene with the little the zombie girl with the wedding dress, and then pulls up the veil, then pulls her mouth open, and the snake pops out. You have a sequence near the end where Bill Pullman is going through the dungeon of Zakes Mokae's nightmarish insane asylum, pretty much. And the long zombie hands are coming out through the bars, and you see all these zombie creatures. They did a great job with the practical effects. Anyway, so yeah, here's a little bit about the making of Surfer in the Rainbow. Um, Reading Davis's book convinced Craven of the existence of these chemically altered living dead, and at the same time he decided that this film's portrayal of voodoo and its influence on Haitian culture had to be truthful. Craven was so determined to do it right that he and producer Ladd traveled to Haiti well in advance of Serpent's shooting schedule to gain the confidence of those with the power. David and I attended real voodoo ceremonies and talked with real voodoo priests, Craven remembers. We told them we wanted to do a movie about voodoo and that we wanted to treat the subject fairly. And to prove how serious we were, we asked that we be given protection through a voodoo ceremony before the filming actually started. And through a series of authentic voodoo rituals, Craven and the Serpent and the Rainbow Company were afforded protection from evil spirits. In the process, the director experienced the film's many bizarre situations. He experienced the first of many bizarre situations that would ultimately make the Nightmares on Elm Street pale by comparison. We were awakened in the middle of the night and were taken to this field where all kinds of drinking and dancing and wild music was going on, says Craven. And suddenly this pig was brought out and slaughtered about 5 feet from where we were sitting. There were screams and blood flying everywhere. The blood was collected in buckets, and as a part of the ceremony, was offered for us to drink. We must have looked awfully afraid because the priest in charge did not make us drink it. We were lucky because, based on what we had already learned about voodoo, you could be in serious trouble if you don't drink it. Craven and the cast and crew actually snuck into Haiti in February 1987, a mere 2 days after what Wes Craven jokingly describes as the annual one-year anniversary revolution. His intent to film for 30 days in unhealthy slums and cemeteries. He expected a rough shoot, but on that first day he wished he had the chance to go back in time and drink the pig's blood. Nearly 4 months of the cast and crew had come down with something. It's like nearly 3/4 of the cast and crew, not 4 months. But nearly 3/4 of the cast and crew had come down with something, winces Craven. We had heard about how unsanitary conditions were in Haiti, and we had stayed away from any food outside of our hotel. But just about everybody was suffering from nausea, vomiting, and dizziness. And the sickness, in one form or another, persisted during the entire stay in Haiti. The only one not suffering was Craven. I felt protected, says Craven, of his apparent immunity, and was determined to not be invaded by what was going on. Unfortunately, others were not so lucky. During the course of filming, a number of cast and crew members were confronted by supernatural visions. Craven refuses to name names, but he talks about particularly frightening incidents. One person came out of a voodoo ceremony, turned around, and immediately hallucinated about seeing an animal with eyes like television screens staring back at him, he offers. An actor was exploring the remains of an old fortress when he saw the ghost of a Haitian general on horseback. The worst incident involved one staff member who went completely insane after being in the country for only 4 days. He was shipped home and remained in a total paranoid state for 4 more days after he returned to the States. On the 5th day, he awoke perfectly normal. But Craven asserts that through it all, cast and crew gave 110%. You had to be there to see how well they performed under those circumstances, he praises. And they were professional, above and beyond the call of duty. Bill Pullman in particular had to perform some mighty physical moves, especially during the scenes which he suffers hallucinations. He was wrung out at the end. And the end of the shoot came a day early when Surfer the Rainbow people quite literally had to flee for their lives. Things have been pretty tense all along, recounts Craven. There were a number of bombings, and we were faced with riots because the estimated 2,000 extras we were using kept asking for more money. We were confronted by stone-throwing crowds on at least 3 occasions. The third incident, recalls Craven with a shudder, was the straw that broke the Serpent's back. We were right in the middle of shooting when all 2,000 extras went on strike. They surrounded the entire company and began throwing stones. They were ready to do us in. The producers and I had an immediate conference with them and negotiated a higher fee for them. At that point, we realized how dangerous it had become for us. We left the country the next day. Filming was completed in the Dominican Republic, an 8-week planned outing, before the Serpent and the Rainbow Company returned to the United States, where Craven was faced yet with another horror, editing. The first cut of this film was 3 hours long, like I mentioned earlier, but a lot of that was talk, too much talk. It's been edited down to about half that length, and the test screenings have been favorable. So yeah, so that's a little bit about the making of Serpent and the Rainbow. Just wanted to share that because there's really no featurettes out there. There's really not much to really hear or see about the making of the film. I think there's a book that my friend Matt read some excerpts from called I forgot Screams and something. It was a book by John Kenneth Meare, who did about the films of Wes Craven, and that's a book that talks about some of the elements that go on with the film. What happened with the making of the movie. But anyway, I'm going to go into the plot synopsis, talk about some things that I liked about the movie. If there's anything I don't, which honestly there really isn't. And then I'm going to give my final rating for the movie. In 1978, a Haitian man named Christophe, played by Conrad Roberts, mysteriously dies in a French missionary clinic, while outside a voodoo parade marches past his window with a burning coffin. The next morning, Christophe is buried in a traditional Catholic funeral, at which his sister cries over his body and prays for his soul. Onlooking is a mysterious black man dressed in a suit, who was also outside Christophe's hospital window on the night he died. As the coffin is lowered into the ground, Christophe's eyes open and tears roll down his cheeks. Very strong opening. Very strong opening. You see the opening of the film, and you can't help but tear up too, because why, he's not dead? I mean, just the concept of being buried alive is just horrible. I mean, please don't bury me. I'm not dead. There you go. Just that's a scary concept for anybody. And this film definitely, I think, is one of the better films that handles this idea of being buried alive. Definitely does it a lot better than Buried with Ryan Reynolds, for instance. There's really not very many films out there, I think, handle that concept and that fear as well as Serpent and the Rainbow does. And also, I don't think there's ever many films out there that also approach it in such a stylistic and such a slick fashion. 7 years later, Dennis Allen, an ethnobotanist and anthropologist from Harvard University, played by Bill Pullman, narrowly escapes the Amazon jungle and returns to Boston after acquiring rare herbs and medicines from a local shaman. During his ordeal, Allen drinks a hallucinogenic potion and experiences a horrifying image of the same black man from Christophe's funeral, surrounded by corpses in a bottomless pit, which is a very tense dream sequence. Allen then also sees his totem jaguar spirit, which leads him out of the jungle to safety. Which, when you see the jaguar spirit in the beginning, it doesn't really bother me that much when it shows up at the end of the movie. I know there's a lot of people who have a problem with the ending, that they think it's over the top, and it doesn't fit totally with the rest of the film. But it's leading up to that. It's already showing you little hints of this jaguar spirit, so I didn't think it was that out of place near the end. Plus, it gave Bill Pullman the ability to beat the shit out of Zakes Mokae and turn the tables. And I gotta be honest, that was a huge crowd pleaser moment for me, so I had no problem with that. So back in Boston, Allen is then approached by a large pharmaceutical corporation looking to investigate a drug used in the voodoo religion of Haiti to create zombies. The company wants Allen to acquire the drug for mass production and use it as a type of super anesthetic that could help save millions of lives because a lot of people actually supposedly, I guess, they die under anesthesia or too much anesthesia during surgery. So the corporation provides Alan with significant funds and sends him to Haiti, where the country is in the middle of a revolution. Alan's exploration in Haiti to find the drug, assisted by the Dr. Marielle, played by Cathy Tyson, locates Christoph, who is alive again after having been buried for 7 years before. Shortly thereafter, Alan is taken into custody by the Haitian authorities, who, with the commander of the Tonton Macoute, Captain Dargent Petrod, played by Zakes Mokae, the same black man from both Christoph's funeral and Alan's vision in the Amazon, warning Alan to leave Haiti. Alan is at first not harmed by Petrod due to Alan's status as a U.S. citizen. Alan refuses to leave and continues to investigate. He encounters a local witch doctor, Mozart, played by Brent Jennings, who is reported to have knowledge of the zombie drug and the procedure necessary for its creation. Alan pays Mozart for a sample of the drug, but Mozart sells him a fake substitute of rat poison instead. After embarrassing Mozart in public, the voodoo witch doctor agrees to show Alan exactly how to produce the zombie drug for a fee of $1,000, to which Alan agrees. Before gaining this knowledge, however, Alan is arrested a second time by the Tonton Macoutes and tortured in a sequence, let me just say, it's wince-inducing. And this is a very effective sequence where, of course, you all know, it was like, I want to hear you scream. You know, I want to hear you scream. It's like, what do you want from me? I want to hear you scream. No! Yes! And then he impales his scrotum with a spike. You're like, ah! Every guy in the world, when they see this film, they instinctively cover up their genitals. They're just like, oh! Ah! Everyone winces. And it's a very effective scene, and it doesn't show the nail penetrating the scrotum. I'm actually glad it didn't. I actually like the fact it didn't do that. It's very effective without having to show you the nail penetrating the scrotum. It's very effective without being like gutter balls, where it cuts a penis in half lengthwise. You know, it's very, you know, we don't really have to show the nail going through the scrotum. Just the screams of pain and the shot of Bill Pullman thrown on the street later with you know, bloody blankets over his crotch is enough. We don't really need to see it. And I'm glad Wes knew that and didn't realize that we didn't really need to show that. So then Alan is dumped on the street after his scrotum had been nailed into the chair. And then with the message clear that he had best leave Haiti before he is killed. Because he did it just to scare him, pretty much. And he refuses to do so. Because this is his job. This is his job to find out what, you know, find the powder and then bring it back to the United States. And he's not going to stop just because some crazy guy is nailing his groin and trying to get him to leave. So he then meets Mozart and then to create the drug. And then a few hours before picking up the final product, Alan has a terrifying dream, which definitely is a really terrifying dream. Buried alive, blood filling up the casket, and this was planted in his head by Petrod, revealed to be an evil Bokor, who turns his enemies into zombies and steals their souls. I think it's Boku. Evil Bokar or Boku, or I don't know how to really say it. It's pronunciation that I'm not familiar with. And so he turns his enemies into zombies and steals their souls. And when Alan wakes up, he is lying next to Christoph's sister, who's been beheaded. Which is, for a second, when I saw it again, I was like, oh my god, he killed his girlfriend. I'm like, no, she's all right. He didn't kill her and then try to frame him. That's what it is. He plants him, and the Tonton Macoutes plants the beheaded sister. The Tonton Macoutes then enter, take photos, and frame Alan for murder. Brought to Petrod tells Alan to leave the country and never return, lest he be convicted of the framed murder, executed, and then his soul stolen by Petrod. He then puts Alan on an airplane at gunpoint, but Mozart sneaks on board at the last minute and gives Alan the zombie drug for free. Mozart simply asks Alan to tell people about him, so that Mozart can achieve international fame. Alan agrees and returns to Boston with his mission apparently completed. I also like the fact where they showed you how they made the zombie drug. It's a very disgusting, gross job. It's definitely a dirty job. Like, this is, you know, crushing up a skull and and turning it to powder and burying it, waiting for it, letting it rest in underground, in like basically where people are buried, and for a day, and then bringing it back out again. But anyway, he returns to Boston, and then at a celebration dinner, the wife of Alan's employers is possessed by Petrod. She starts biting it, eating glass, grabs a knife, and slashes Alan across the face. Then she starts having seizures and stuff like that, and she starts freaking out. And so then, of course, that happens, and then Alan realizes that, well, I'm not going to be able to escape from this. I have to go back to Haiti. I have to stop him because no one else is going to be able to do it. No one from his group is going to be able to do it. No one in Haiti is really going to want to do it because he's in power. So I have to stop him. Otherwise, he's going to keep tormenting me and torturing me and try to kill me. I'll never be safe. So Alan returns to Haiti, where his only ally, Hongun, named Lucien Celine, is killed by Petrod through dark magic, causing a scorpion to materialize inside Celine's throat. Excuse me. And that was, he dies, and then a scorpion just crawls out of his mouth. Like, yeesh. And then Mozart is then beheaded at the same time as a sacrifice for Petrod's evil power. Alan is then sprayed with a zombie powder, which kills him, which I always thought this is pretty... It kills him in parentheses, really, quotes, air quotes, it kills him. It really doesn't. It just brings down his heartbeat to a really, really low level. And and he's paralyzed. So it's almost like if you saw him, you probably think he was dead. But he can see and he can hear and he can feel and everything. And that's pretty terrifying as well. Just the concept of you're supposed to be dead, but you're not really. You're just paralyzed. And when people are like doing all this stuff, and can you imagine if they could have like he was almost getting ready to be embalmed, and then Petrod shows up and is like, no, I'll take care of it. And it was just like, ooh, that's. I mean, just think about that. Excuse me, allergies. It's that time of year. But anyway. Just thinking about the concept of just being paralyzed and then the people thinking you're dead and you're able to see and hear and in some ways maybe feel, like not really feel, but at least see and hear and see what's being done to you. Ugh. And the fact that it could happen in seconds. Some guy could just randomly walk up to you, blow this powder in your face, and then you're like, then, yeah, you're pretty much helpless. That's pretty terrifying. And then Petrod then steals Alan's body from an American medical clinic before Alan's death can be reported to the American embassy. And then Petrod takes Alan to a graveyard where, helpless in his coffin, Alan sees that Petrod has captured Marielle and will kill her as a sacrifice to Baron Samedi. Petrod further shows Alan the soul of Lucien Celine in a canary, which is like a jar with the soul. And then Alan is then buried alive with a tarantula to keep him company. Which is like, it's not bad enough. Get buried alive. And you're paralyzed. You can't move. And you're buried. But now there's a freaking tarantula in there with you. Crawling on your face. And I think there was a few shots where it was a dummy of Bill Pullman. But there was others where, I don't know, like the shot that went over his eye when the spider crawled over his eye. And you can see the spider's hairy legs crawl over his eye. That might have been Bill Pullman actually doing it, or somebody. I mean, it's a real spider crawling on somebody's face. It was like, ugh, over his eye, like, just, ugh. And then waking up screaming in his coffin a few hours later, Alan is then rescued by Christoph, who was also turned into a zombie by Petrod many years earlier, and now lives in a cemetery thinking that he's still dead. And of course, before all of this, you had that famous scene where he's all like, don't let them bury me. I'm not dead. Don't let them bury me. I'm not dead. And so you had that. And then Christoph saves him. And then having escaped Petrod's trap, Alan then returns to the Tonton Macoute headquarters looking for Marielle. And now the Haitian people are celebrating the downfall of Jean-Claude Duvert, who was the dictator, the guy who was running the country and doing a really poor job of it. screwing the Haitian people over. And so now this dictatorship has fallen, and there's all this hectic craziness going on in Haiti. And then he goes to the Tonton Macoute headquarters looking for Marielle. There, Alan and his Jaguar spirit, which is the thanks to Marielle, who got away from Petrod, and then started smashing the Canaries, and she smashed the one that had the soul of Lucien Celine in it, and then he gives the power of the Jaguar to Bill Pullman, and then he starts just beating the crap out of Zakes Mokae and busts all of the Canary in a really epic sequence, and all the souls get released, and then they light Zakes Mokae on fire, and you think that might be it after he gets lit on fire and then falls in a pile of skulls. And then no, because then Bill Pullman goes in and he goes into the torture room, and then he sees that chair where he was tied to, and then where he got his scrotum nailed, and then he ends up turning the tables, and he just starts beating the shit out of Petrod, who's trying to haunt him now in his dreams from the dead, from the afterlife. And Bill Pullman, I love how Bill Pullman in this scene is like, he's had enough of this shit, and he's like, fuck you, just punching him and throwing him around the room, and you fucking piece of shit, I've had enough of this shit, boom, shut up, just beating the shit out of him. And then he ends up using his powers, because he's got these powers now to control what's going on in his mind, and he uses those powers to get Petrod in the chair and tie him up, and then get and to use his mind to make the nail fly in the air and then hover over his crotch, and then it's like then he says that awesome line where it's like, I want to hear you scream, and then like, and then it falls into his crotch, and then he's like, ah! Then he gets drugged, in the chair to hell. It's pretty much his soul. It's a battle of the soul. So it's in the mind, and then the soul and the spirit, and so his soul then gets dragged to hell, screaming, which is a great crowd-pleasing moment. And then the Haitian people celebrate the downfall of their dictator, and the downfall, in a way, of also the evil Bokor, played, Petrod. And then Marielle proclaims that the nightmare is over. And you have a freeze frame because they end up embracing, and there. It's actually, surprisingly, it's a happy ending for a horror film. Wow. Anyway, that's another thing that I really like about the film. It's a film that has this overwhelming sense of dread throughout it, but at the end, it ends on a high note. Anyway, I really don't know what to say about Surfing the Rainbow, except I really love this film. I think it's an excellent movie. I think it's a little bit underrated when it comes to Wes Craven films. It's gotten more acclaim over the years. It really didn't light the box office on fire, which is too bad. I mean, it was made for $7 million and only made about $19.6 million, which isn't really that much when you think about it. But hey, at least it made a profit, and at least it enabled Wes Craven to show the rest of the world that, hey, I can do more than just Freddy. I can do a major studio film, and I can make a serious film and do a great job with it. So yeah, there are some comic booky elements, especially near the end, but I'm fine with it because like I said, it's a crowd pleaser. I'm glad Bill Pullman gets the spirit of the Jaguar, and beats the shit out of Petrod, of Zakes Mokae. I mean, that's a very crowd-pleasing ending to me. I didn't have a problem with that ending at all. But that's just me. But anyway, yeah, I love the film. I love the Serpent and the Rainbow, and it has the serpent. There's a snake in it, and there's also a rainbow because the movie the rainbow happens when the souls get released. So in a way, the film also the title. There are also elements and sequences in the movie that are the title of the film, which it's a little subtle thing, but that doesn't really always happen with films. You don't always see that sometimes. And the way they did it I thought was a little subtle and was nice. But yeah, I think there's great performances by the cast, by Bill Pullman, by Zakes Mokae, by Cathy Tyson, Paul Winfield, Brent Jennings, Conrad Roberts. Great score by Brad Fiedel. Excellent direction by Wes Craven. Great editing, great cinematography, good screenplay. It's got a fast pace. It's never boring. It's always interesting. It's always intriguing. It's one of the most compelling and one of the most enthralling, like I said earlier, one of the most compelling, enthralling, and truly terrifying films of its genre for me. I think it's the best voodoo film I've seen. It's the best film about voodoo for me personally, and yeah, it's a classic. It's an excellent film. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you check it out. Anyway, I really don't know what to say about The Serpent and the Rainbow except it's rated out of 5 stars. It gets 5 out of 5. Nothing less than me. Nothing less than that for me personally. I don't really have anything wrong with it. I don't find any problems with it, but that's just me personally. I'd be lying if I said, oh, this and that. No, there's no pacing issues. There's no problems with the screenplay. There's no problems with the tone for me. I know there's problems with the tone for some people because near the end, but it's not a problem for me personally because I like it. And, yeah, the performances are all good. The direction's good. The editing's good. The cinematography's good. Yeah, it's one of the best films of its genre for me. It's definitely one of the best horror films in the 1980s, and I definitely would say it's one of the best films of 1988. But anyway, I really don't know what to say except thank you for watching my review of The Serpent and the Rainbow, and I will see you guys later. See ya.